Warning. Pro-Tri News is a podcast with different opinions, knowledge, and possibly fake news about triathlon racing. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and some stories may be dramatized for comedic effect. Enjoy.
We finally made it to Taupo, New Zealand for the 70.3 World Championship. We're super excited to bring you guys content all week long leading into the race so you can be part of the hype. We want to give a big shout out to Bicycle for making this possible for us to be here. They're the largest marketplace for used bikes, but you can also get components, wheels, etc. all on their website. Visit bicycle.com/ProTri News and you'll get buyer's protection as well as 30% off whenever you list a bike. So check them out. Thank you for listening and hope you enjoy. All right, we're here with the last podcast before the race, and I felt like it was only appropriate to have two of the most successful people in Ironman history, 70.3 history. Between the two of you guys have won more races than you can count. Kona multiple times. You guys are both 70.3 world champions. The list kind of goes on. Mirinda, Carfrae and Craig Alexander. So thanks for joining, guys.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you so much.
Exciting to be here in Taupo. Amazing location for a race. Amazing history here with triathlon and a couple of cracking fields lining up for Saturday and Sunday. So it should be good fun. Yeah,
definitely big fields here. We got the short course athletes and some long course athletes. I love this distance because it's kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Typically favors the short course athlete, but I think this weekend will be a barn burner.
Yeah. And we have a little Jameson here as well. So if you hear baby in the background, that's why we're doing Pro-Tri News babysitting services opening as well. Yeah. You wanted to say hello? Cool.
Lost the words.
There we go. So, it's been a big week. You guys are staying here where most of the professional athletes are staying. You guys probably have a better gauge than anyone listening or even myself as far as who you think are going into this race pretty hot, feeling really good. So you're going to want to talk about who you think is in good form.
Yeah, I think we'll start with the women's race. It's really hard to go by Taylor Knibb. I mean, she's had a phenomenal year. Obviously, her focus early in the year was the Olympics. She didn't have, the race she'd hoped for, but she's been basically unbeatable at the 70.3 distance and the middle distance at the T100 as well. So, and T100 newly crowned champion. So really hard to go by her. But then, Julie Duron is just so strong. And I think she came close in Dubai. And also Ash Gentle hasn't really raced a bunch of 70.3s. Obviously, she's been focusing on the T100 and been very successful in that. But I'm looking forward to seeing her jump over, a little bit extra distance, a little bit longer run as well for her. So they're three big names. And then there's a couple other women as well.
Kat Matthews, I think, will obviously podium finisher at the 70.3 Worlds last year, as was Imogen Simmons. So I think those two ladies will definitely figure into the mix as well. And of course, Kat's leading the Ironman Pro Series, so we have that sort of race within a race going on. But yeah, I'm with you, Rin. I was leaning towards the three you mentioned first. I think Taylor's form's been irresistible, unbeaten in the T100. Even in the Olympics at the mixed team relay, she was amazing. That anchor leg for the US team to secure a silver medal. I saw her 2 days ago. I think for me, one of the big question marks with the championship race in December is it's been a long season for the athletes. So how have they structured it? Did they take a mid-season break? Who's still firing physically and mentally in December? And they're all professionals. They know they have to be on top of their game. But I saw Taylor. I think she's travelled out here with her mum and dad. They're racing. It's been like a fun family trip. She seems to be in good spirits. But we've also seen, as you mentioned, Cole, we're staying. Saw Ash Gentle. She looks super relaxed, happy. I think she's keen for the extra 3K in the run over the T100. Paul Finley, who's a perennial, just always at the front of races, so consistent, strong biker, strong all round. She seems to be relaxed. I was chatting to her and Eric the other day. Eric's been up. He did a couple of runs up into the mountains, so he's been loving it here with the time they've spent so far. So it's a stacked field, but yeah, if you're asking us to pick, I'm going to lean towards Taylor as well.
we're super pumped to finally announce a partnership that we've been working on for a while. Raw Nutrition is going to be our nutrition provider through the end of the year. Obviously, we've been using their products to train with for a while. They've worked with some of the best athletes in the world, from Kat Matthews, Jackie Herring, Alice Alberts, and Trevor Foley. We're stoked to be on board through the end of the year with them. You can get 15% off with code PTN. Their website is getrawnutrition.com. It's also linked in the bio for this podcast. If you're not sure what to get, look, they have a lot of different products for you. They have protein supplements, they have electrolytes, and then their fuel line gets you both to your workout and then through your workout. So check them out. They have a lot of different flavors, the orange and the lemon lime for the raw fuel. The lemon lime is my favorite. And then the Replenish, they have a watermelon mojito, which is their electrolyte formula. That's super, super delicious. So check them out. Give them a try. Let us know what you think. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can go through swim, bike, and run as far as where we think the packs are going to lie and things like that. But, I mean, it's obvious that there's maybe one favorite, but also some people that can shake it up depending on if drama or something happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think Crowie mentioned the biggest factor is that the season is so long, or has been so long this year, and the athletes have been racing, since March, basically, a lot of them. So December, I know Kat, I don't know for sure, but it seems like she sort of came into this one. You guys at the PTN would know, as she's in the family. She was coming into this one kind of, just to tick the box, have a little bit of a holiday. I mean, she's a competitor and she's a very good athlete. So as soon as she gets on the start line, she's going to do the best she can. But athletes that have planned their whole year around this race, I think there'll be some athletes that shine through that have in fact done that. So, it's easy to sort of, talk about the athletes that have been shining really strong all year, but it's tough at the end of the year to have
There's
the
going to be
motivation.
someone that'll have a shocker. I mean, look at Rico Bogan last year. Like, nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, I don't think there's going to be a shocker like that in the women's side, just because the top women, there's a bit of a gap down to that next tier.
There's too much class at the top. They're so good.
Yeah. I tend to agree.
Yeah.
But there will be some surprises, I think, in the top 5 and top 10. And that's the great thing about championship racing.
Sure.
There's always someone out of the box who's focused on a race, and they bring in maybe 3 or 4% better performance than you've ever seen from them before, like Rico last year in the men's. So that's why we love the races. We consider and speculate, and we look on paper and we're looking at the form guide, but race day is something special. But yeah, I think that the ladies Rinny mentioned, they're just so classy and they've got so much pedigree and experience, and most of the top contenders have raced a lot, so they're all in the same boat from that perspective.
And a lot of them have raced. I'm remiss because I should have said this yesterday during the pro panel, but if you look at the 5 of the 7 women that were up there, most of them have raced each other all year. So they know each other's strengths. They know each other's weaknesses. They know when and where to attack and how they're able to race. And put themselves in position to where I know that this person can't respond to XYZ effort.
Yeah, and I think they're slowly chipping away at Taylor, maybe. I mean, I feel like in Dubai there was, Ash put together a phenomenal swim. She was out of the water with the main pack.
Yeah.
And then, Taylor was able to put a bit of time in on the bike, but that time wasn't what we're used to seeing from Taylor. It wasn't 6 minutes, it was 3 minutes to the runners. And we all know Taylor can run very well as well. And on that day, she executed the perfect swim bike run to get her across the finish line first. But the women are getting closer.
They're getting closer.
And so I think that's that narrative is just going to get more exciting as the ladies figure out, okay, how do we beat Taylor?
Yeah.
Now we have to beat Taylor. So I think when you're that good, all of the rest of the field sort of starts to look at each other like, okay, she's just going to keep winning forever, or we need to do something different. And so that's tough for Taylor to come up against, but it's also what it's going to take to have someone beat her because she's so good.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the course, like you mentioned, the top girls have all raced each other, but not on this course. So this is where this course might come into play. I think with the swim, the way it's set out, being wetsuit swim and only 2 turns, maybe lends itself to more of the group sticking together, potentially. And some of the hills coming earlier in the bike, I think that's more the dynamic. We're interested to see what happens. Ash had a great swim in Dubai. Will she be able to replicate that here? And it'll be interesting to see those first 20 or 30K on the bike, the undulations and the hills, what the dynamic is there. Because I think some of those girls, maybe Paula and Ash, will be thinking, if we can get through that first section and still be, within range, that would be the ideal scenario for them. So, yeah, it's really interesting. There's a lot of stuff to play out on this course. I'm excited to see. I mean, the swim course, basically, you head out 300 metres, take a left, and then it's a straight shot for about 1,200 metres. And typically, you don't see the groups split up that much with that kind of a course, particularly wetsuit legal swim. So, it's going to be interesting, the dynamic, but the girls are definitely chipping away at Taylor. She's been so dominant.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you look at who maybe could shake things up on the bike, not necessarily win the race, but Sif Bendix-Madsen, not a lot of people have talked about her or even mentioned her name, but she's one of the best 70.3 bike racers in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw her firsthand in Boulder, and it was like she was only a minute slower than the fastest men, and those men were phenomenal cyclists. So it wasn't like B-grade men's field; it was a solid men's field, and like Trevor Foley was there, so one of the best bikers in the sport. And she biked like a 204 or something,
right?
Crazy like that. So. Yeah, there's some and Paula Finlay, I feel like she didn't get a hold of Dubai, and so she didn't have that performance there. So she's been solid all year long, been injury-free all year long, and I think she's definitely an athlete we know who can cycle well. Obviously, we've seen her in UCI go and race the world champs there, and best cyclist in time trialer, in Canada too. So she has the ability.
And she's one of those 70.3 specialists, right? Like the T100 may just be a little too sharp for her, but like she won St. George pretty handily this year. Ellie Salthouse was second. And so you look at those athletes that are like the 70.3 specialists, Ellie and Paula, that they could definitely race well here, that necessarily maybe at the 100K distance they hadn't been there.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ellie Salthouse. She's been really quiet, hasn't done the T100 series, and she's fallen short on all world champs. To be honest, a big fan of Ellie, friend of mine, but she really hasn't performed at a 70.3, and I think she's put a lot into this race to try and get the job done here. So that's a name I hope to see racing through the ranks and having a good performance.
And she'll be up there on the swim and the bike.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think she's played her cards right in that she'll have the mental strength and the mental focus that maybe some athletes might be lacking after such a long season.
Sure.
So if you have that edge, that goes a long way in a 70.3.
Yeah. And she's got 3 Ironman 70.3 wins this year.
She has. She won Geelong, I think also Melbourne and Boulder. So she is a prolific winner on the 70.3 circuit. I think she finished 13th last year in Finland at Lahti. So probably not the result she was hoping for. I know she got a couple of penalties, so that wouldn't have helped. But Rin's right. I mean, I agree with Paula. I think this is exactly the kind of race where, Paula could get onto the podium. And I get the sense with Paula, when she's happy and relaxed, she races well. And she seems, she's travelled down here with Eric. I saw them catching up with their crew this morning for a swim. She seems like she's in a good place. So, you wouldn't be surprised to see her right up the front of the race. And Ellie as well. I think those athletes who have maybe put the cue in the rack in the middle of the year haven't over-raced. Like Rin mentioned, we didn't see Ellie on the T100 series at all. So I think you bring an extra motivation and an extra mental focus when you build up and prepare for a major race that way. The schedule's packed for these athletes, these pro athletes. With the Ironman Pro Series, the T100, a lot of them come off the Olympic Games. Some of the athletes who maybe are a little quieter in the middle of the year and are just reloading for something later in the year, they always can surprise as well. So I do feel this racing, even though it is a meeting of the distances, so to speak, it's much closer to Olympic distance. It's actually Olympic distance racing. That's what it is. I feel it's about threshold and speed. So I feel those athletes always have the advantage. But yeah, it's interesting to see the athletes, just how they schedule their season when they take a rest mid-year. there's not a right or wrong way to do it. Athletes who build with confidence and momentum, and when they race a lot and race well, I think that suits that style of a preparation. Some athletes, as I said, when they take a rest and recharge and reload for one race in particular, that's how they get the best out of themselves. So
Sure.
It's going to be interesting to see how that balances out and plays out on Saturday. But yeah, it's going to be a good race. Certainly the dynamics is what's going to interest me. I think we understand who the main players are going to be,
Sure.
but just how the actual racing itself
is going to be crazy. And then we can talk about the Ironman Pro Series a bit, just because like it is a race within a race. Like Jackie Herring's leading the series right now, but Kat's advancing a score. Like Kat really, I don't remember the exact math that Mark's given multiple times, but she needs to finish basically in front of or even behind Jackie within 10 minutes or something crazy.
Mark, when he explains the Pro Series, he's like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
He starts talking and all these mathematical equations start appearing, and you almost need a PhD in statistics to work out the series. But yeah, I mean, it's still close. Kat's in the box seat. I think it's added an extra level of interest for sure and excitement. Some athletes have targeted races and some athletes have targeted the whole series.
Sure.
Yeah, and there's other, like Lotte Wilms as well. She's an athlete that has targeted this whole series, and I don't know that she has her 5 scores either.
No, I think she's missing one as well.
She's missing one, yeah. So this will rocket her up, and she's already in pretty good contention. So she needs to have a solid performance to finish up on the podium. I don't think Kat's first is in danger unless Kat has an absolute disaster. I mean, and anything can happen, right? Like flat tires, mechanicals, like stuff can go wrong. So
you do need a bit of luck.
You absolutely, you need to race. Kat just needs to go out and do what she does every single day of the week, but she'll need a little luck to make sure there's no mechanical or issue there. So I think Kat's certainly in the box seat, as you mentioned, but there's some movement that can happen further down the ranks, and this is still meaningful. There's a lot of money on the line for these women, and that hasn't been the case for a long time. And so I think the professionals now just have a lot of opportunity, and I think it's just wonderful that there is that opportunity for them to go and make a good chunk of money, and it just means that they're able to then become more professional in the sport, set themselves up, not have to worry about flying in seat 58D, possibly get some upgrades on there, and mechanical help, coaching help. They can hire more specialists. So I think this money just means that the athletes can become more professional in what they do.
Yeah. What would you guys have done if, like, let's rewind the clocks back and you had both options of like the T100 series of like guaranteed money versus the Ironman Pro series?
Man, that's a great question. I feel my strengths probably lay in the shorter, that 280 sort of 18 I would have loved. But I would have targeted the championships.
Yeah.
The Ironman branded races.
Yep.
I was lucky. Ren and I were both lucky, actually. The 70.3 world champs came in
at the perfect time.
Yeah, in the middle of our career. Maybe a touch late for me. I would have liked to a crack at it a little earlier, but at least I got a crack at it. I was chatting to Mark Allen the other day, and I think he said he went unbeaten in half Ironman racing for years, but there was just no officially sanctioned race. And I just feel that series, what it's done is that distance and that 70.3 circuit has just been huge in sort of the evolution of our sport. If you look now at the depth of the pro racing, it's far deeper than it's ever been, and I feel it's because of the 70.3 series, but also T100, that sort of middle distance, more racing opportunities. From a personal standpoint, I mean, it speaks to just the importance of scheduling a season, and I would have put the world champs in as my priority. I would have wanted some T100 racing in there too, and I know the T100 world champion is crowned based on a point score.
Sure.
And I think most competitive athletes are greedy like that. We all want to win everything. You want to win everything you can, so you just try and make everything work and find a balance where you can be at your best multiple times a year, which I think you can be in the shorter course or the shorter style of racing.
Yeah, and you guys are kind of apex predators, so you want to win everything. You want to race everyone. You want to put yourself on the start line, healthy, ready to go, and fired up to take down the competitors. So
yeah, and I think you asked the question earlier, what would I have done, in the position that the athletes are in now, choose the Pro Series or choose the Ironman? I think it would have depended where I was in my career. Earlier in my career, I would have been 100% all in on the Pro Series most likely, but later in my career, I think it would have just been try and win more Konas.
Yeah.
And before I did Ironman, that's what it was about, winning as many races as possible over, the half Ironman distance. And you could race 10, 12, 15 times a year back then.
Yeah.
But once I sort of found the formula that worked for me for Kona, I couldn't race that many times in a year if I wanted to race my best in Kona. So it would have been, do I want to win Kona, or do I want to, try and make as much money as possible and accumulate as much points as possible and rise up on that T100 circuit. So, I think it would have been a tough decision, and I would have tried to do both as best possible. But again, I think as Crowie mentioned, having those championships as your key races for the year would have been my priority as well.
Yeah, and you guys raced all distances too in your guys' career, so it just makes sense that you guys could have been successful as well at the T100 distance. So
I feel that the landscape, the triathlon, like professional racing landscape, is as good as it's been in a while, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of options for athletes, and it's sort of...
And a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money, which is great. I think they deserve it. I mean...
Pioneers like yourself, the golden age, putting on the amazing races for all of us to watch. So
yeah, and we had our big money races back in the day too. North American circuit, you had the Lifetime Fitness series, and then you had High V came in. Mm-hmm. So I think every sort of generation gets their opportunity at that. And I mean, of course, we're all fans of the sport here. We know how hard the professional athletes work. Every opportunity they get to make a good living out of it, they've earned.
Yeah.
And then some. So, but what I like about it is it suits different styles of athletes too. I mean, if you think, well, maybe I'm not quite at the level I need to be right now to win a championship, I can target a series. I can target the Ironman Pro Series. So you've just got to be strategic, understand honestly what your strengths are at that time as an athlete, and craft a race schedule that really addresses that. And, as Rinny mentioned, this kind of money, it can change the trajectory of a pro athlete's career, because you can invest a little more in yourself, like any business.
Sure.
Maybe not have to race as much in subsequent years. It's important. And I'm loving that the athletes there's so many opportunities across all the distances for these athletes to make a really decent income, and they work so hard, and they've earned it.
Yeah.
Are you headed to a race this weekend? Whether it's to watch someone or simply race yourself, don't leave home without visiting TeleRx.com. TeleRx can provide so many solutions for you in the event that you get sick or injured. Currently, TeleRx has over 140 medications available in over 40 states. Use code PTN at checkout for 20% off all orders. This weekend, I'm traveling to a race, and I'm bringing ondansetron, azithromycin, and high-strength ibuprofen. Good luck.
Looking into the men's race, I don't know if you guys want to do picks. You guys are probably... You do want to do picks?
I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to do picks. Being on,
you're on the broadcast, right?
But I always do, and usually mess it up. But I don't know if I can pick this one, to be honest. I mean, obviously there's Hayden Wild, who's been phenomenal over short course racing, and bringing that speed.
Jameson's
shaking his head, saying no.
Jameson's saying no for Hayden.
And then there's the local boy, Carl Smith. I mean, two New Zealanders. I mean, it would be amazing for a Kiwi to get up and win here. Carl Smith's been very strong over that, the T100 distance, and obviously very good. He'll be very good here. Leo Bongier.
Yeah.
Bongier, I said that wrong. Sorry, Leo, I completely butchered your name. I won't do that.
We do that on Pro Tri News. It's all right. We do it all the time.
Undefeated in the 70.3. Hasn't done many.
Yep.
But always runs, 110. And I think it's going to be, with Hayden Wild saying he's going to run 105, 106.
Yeah.
They're going to need to run that pace. So throw his name in there too. Rico Bogan. I mean, the kid. I feel like I can call
He's
him.
still getting counted out, and it's like, he already
he's defending
he's world champion.
And he raced very well. I mean, hasn't won a Pro Series, an Ironman PTO race, but he won when it mattered most at the 70.3 World Champs in Finland last year. So
Yeah.
And he's in great form because he had a great race in Dubai recently.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. If there's a lot of names
Yeah.
on that men's side, and I think it'll be interesting how it plays out.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. I mean, you mentioned a lot of the main players, and there's still more in there. But for me, it'll be. I mean, obviously we got Henry Schumann in the race.
Yep.
Joshy Armberger, Mark Dubrick. We got some noted swimmers.
Yeah.
So
Greg Harper, he'll more than likely lead the
Greg
swim
Harper,
out.
great swimmer.
And then I can't remember have you guys seen Nick Quinnett, the South African?
I'm not
If he's
sure.
there, he's an insane swimmer as well. Like
I
that.
saw his
That's
name on the
front
list,
swim
but I'm
group.
not sure if he's signed in, so I'm not sure if he's racing or not. So
I can pull it up right now.
But yeah, for me, the dynamic in the swim will be, I mean, those boys have a huge incentive to just go warp speed from the gun. Ken Hayden and a few of the others. I think Leo will be in that front group.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is no question. I think just Hayden has, for me, Hayden and Alex Yee are two of the best runners the sport's ever seen.
Yeah.
Of course, Alex is not here, but
He could have been because he was Olympic champion. So you got an
yeah, well, it
invite.
would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, that would have been
So
fun.
I think their run pedigree is unbelievable. I have them up with Alistair as, on the men's side, three of the best runners I've ever seen in our sport. Probably the three best runners ever. I don't think there's any question Hayden can run a 65 or a 66. The question is, can he hang on in the swim, and how hard will they make him work on the bike? Because Hayden thinks he can run a 65, and I think the other men in the field think he can run that as well. So what does that mean for their race strategy? What, it's always, you're always best served to race your own race, but at this front end, Cole's been close, Rico's the defending champ. You take risks at the front of the race. You take some risks.
We're also haven't mentioned Yella Hins as well.
Yeah.
Won the Vegas PTO race not too long ago and didn't race Dubai, so has had a little training.
Couldn't get a wild card.
Yeah, couldn't get a wild card. So actually, no, I think he might have, but then he.
It was too late
there.
by the time. By the time it
he
was
found
offered,
out.
it was too late, and
Yeah.
it's like,
he was in transit to Australia or something.
yeah, he's moving with his family. So,
But he's been able to. That might be. I mean, after this race, we'll see. But it might have been a blessing in disguise. He's
Sure.
been able to go back, get some training done, get a good block in, and then have a proper lead into this race. So, obviously, we've seen what he can do if he swims on that front pack, hangs in there as well. Very, very strong runner. He's fallen short in a couple of 70.3s, but he did put it together.
he's raced
in
three
Vegas.
70.3s this year, and was what was he
On the
fourth,
podium in
fourth
each.
in Oceanside,
Oh, fourth in Oceanside.
fourth
okay.
in Oceanside, yeah,
And then a couple of podiums, but hadn't
Yeah.
won one. But then, obviously won the big one in
cracked
Vegas.
it out
Yeah.
a couple months ago. So,
So yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of names here
yeah.
on the list, and
As far as the bike, looking at the men's race for the bike, you got big names that are going to throw down some huge watts. Matisse Margier.
can we call him Eminem?
Yeah, you
Love
can
that
do
name.
that. That'd be better.
Matisse Margier. We just
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
call him.
I like doing nicknames,
Yeah.
so I always call him Uncle Rico, for Rico Bogan. So you got him, you got Matthew Marquardt, you got Christian Hogenhag, you got Big Mike Phillips. I mean, those are pretty much the names for the bike. As far as hitters that are going to absolutely rip it. Hayden is one of the best cyclists over the Olympic distance. We'll see if it translates over to the 70.3 distance for him. Kyle Smith, obviously, that whole front swim group, all of them can ride the bike.
Yeah, and that's the question. That's what we keep coming back to. So who's going to be in that front group, and how motivated are they going to be to just drop massive power? Because those names you mentioned, those boys are powerhouses on the bike.
Yep.
And I mean, and we don't want to pigeonhole them and say that at this level the athletes have got across the board, but they're known as big bikers who shape the races they're in. So I think Hayden will hold his own. The one or two 70.3s I've seen him in, he's biked lights out and been amazing. So, and I would expect him to swim in the front group as well. So it's just interesting. That's why we love the racing, right? Because again, we can sit here and speculate for hours about this might happen and that might happen. And I mean, we've got guys like Casper Storns in the field. We've got Jason West in the field. And I know Jason hasn't had his best year this year, but some of the performances we saw him drop last year in those T100s, like he was on the verge of breakthrough victories. So if he can recreate that and be close enough off the bike with his run speed, I mean, he's a guy who could challenge for the top 5 of the podium as well. So, yeah, no, it's an interesting field. I'm loving that Henry Schoeman's here as well. I think he will definitely add some fire to that swim, which could help Kyle and a few of those other guys. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Another name we had mentioned was Tom Bishop, who had a pretty good season this year, second place at Roth and 2 70.3 podiums. So a name that no one is talking about as well that can swim and bike really, really well.
Yeah, it's a great field. I mean, as we mentioned before, the depth in our sport just keeps getting better and better.
It is insane.
I mean, there are legitimately 5 guys who you wouldn't be surprised to
win the race
who, if they're on the top step of the podium. And there's probably another 10 who, again, if you saw them on the podium, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So the depth of racing that we're seeing in the men's and the women's racing is just, it keeps getting better, and it just adds to as a fan, it's just exciting.
Yeah. And it adds to the prestige of what this race is, right? Like, we talk about it all the time. It's like, will the T100 kill the 70.3 distance or kill 70.3 worlds? Like, this right here, this weekend is evident that it's not, and it won't happen.
They can complement each other.
Yeah.
They can actually, it should just bring the standard of racing up even higher.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'm loving the quality of fields and the strength of fields we've had at the 70.3 have been amazing, and every T100 has been like world championship caliber field as well, and I think they can complement each other. And they say a rising tide floats all boats. It'll just bring the standard up. It'll drag the standard up.
That's a trademark of Pro Tri News, just so you know. We say that in almost every episode. So
there you go.
Yeah, we listen to Pro Tri News.
Man, that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
It makes you feel really good. So
no, I think we're in for a real show this weekend, and we've named all the top guys on paper.
Yeah,
but paper doesn't mean anything when it comes to race day, and then championships in particular, things can get thrown out the window, and as we said, even more so in a long season like we've had. So I think we're in for a really special race, and whoever gets to win that world title. I've been asked this a lot this week. What does it mean to win a 70.3 world title? And it literally can change your life.
Yeah.
You have that world champion words next to your name. It changes everything.
Yeah.
And so
sponsors, it opens a lot of doors.
It opens doors, yeah, and it just gives you more opportunity to continue to do what you love and do it at a higher level. So I'm excited to see what shakes out and who our new world champions are and who our new series champions are as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for making the time to come and record. I know you guys have busy schedules, and it means a lot for me just because you guys are some of my heroes, and I've watched race many, many years, and so it's really special that we were able to make this happen.
Thank you so much, and apologies for the baby noise in the background. My niece is not feeling well, and she's here to take care of the little guy, but I gave her the morning off.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Thanks for the invite to come on and chat about a sport we love. So keep doing what you guys are doing with Pro Tri News. It's awesome to be able to keep up with the latest and what's happening in the sport. So, appreciate the invite to come on.
Yeah, thanks, Crowie. You joined for the second time. The audio file was missing from Kona, so.
The phantom recording.
Yeah.
Let's talk it up as the greatest podcast ever recorded.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it was.
We lost the audio, but it was, take our word for it.
We still have the video, so we talked about just dubbing over the whole thing and just ad-libbing trying to it, but yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so thanks guys. Be sure to listen and watch the race this weekend. Thanks for following the podcast that we've been putting out. Obviously, we'll do post-race, and thank you for listening. Be sure to support Bicycle. They're doing a lot in our sport and trying to build a big bike used marketplace. So be sure to visit their site, buy some components, buy some wheels, buy a bike if you need a new used bike, or if you want to get an extra bike in your garage. So thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon.